Welcome to the Life-Giving Leader Podcast. Hello, and welcome back to the Life-Giving Leader Podcast. My name is Tyler Reagin, your host, and I've been getting some texts from those of you that know me, and you've been wondering, what the heck is going on? You have gone dark. Well, the truth is, this summer, I think I might have traveled more than I have in a long time, and most of it's been with family, which has been really fun, and then some work stuff, hanging out with some great groups and great organizations, and then getting ready as we speak for school to kick back up. Some counties here in Georgia are started today, which is insane. But hey, this week is going to be, I'm going to make up for lost time, okay? I'm going to release between 2 and 4 episodes, so be on the lookout for that. Everything from today's episode with Derek Sanford, a good friend of mine, and had a really great new book that just came out, and so you're going to enjoy this conversation. And he also is someone who had stepped in to lead something he didn't start. My friends at Erie, and hearing about how they have a heartbeat for the next generation and speaking leadership into their world. Josh Surratt from Seacoast. I mean, like, come on, guys. Like, this could be maybe the strongest week in the history of the Life-Giving Leader Podcast. So that's coming up all this week. Couple great things as I'm recording this. This week is my annual Golf Buddies trip. This year we're going down to St. Simons, Georgia, at a pretty amazing club that we're going to get to play at. And I am the reigning champion, people. So I finally got the trophy engraved. We've been doing this for 22 years. And so we have a trophy that every year whoever wins keeps it for the year, and then you just have to get your little piece of the puzzle engraved. And I had to drive all over Atlanta to figure that out. But excited. I'm going to fight really hard to do the back-to-back just for all of you guys that have been listening and caring about this. And we have basically, we keep our handicap not through our USGA, but through like our tournament rounds. And so I have a pretty good chance this year again to give a strong showing. So that's coming up this weekend. I'm excited about that. And then next week, man, my kids are starting 5th grade and 8th grade, and I can't even believe it. Last year of middle for one and last year of elementary for the other. So time is flying. And last thing I want to say before we get to this interview with Derek, I've just been praying a lot about what's going on around us. And I'm watching, we've had really pretty good friends get sick with COVID, and even those that have been vaccinated. And so we're just praying for this next wave that's coming through. I know for me, it makes me anxious, the idea of going through what we've gone through before, but more than the anxiety is just the reality of friends and people and loved ones that are getting sick with it right now. And I just pray for them, for our doctors, and for our decision makers to be wise, but also be caring. Anyway, there's a lot of layers to it, but I'm just praying for our friends who've been sick. And so that's about it right now. I know there's a lot of other things we could catch up on, and as this week goes on, we'll catch up on some of those things, but really grateful. Hopefully get a few minutes to tell you about how we did with 1010 Project and Onsite. What an incredible partnership that's going to be, and just lots of fun things, and even some thoughts around this here podcast and ways that it can combine and talk and compare with 1010 Project and the things I'm doing there. So hope you're starting a great week this week. Can't believe it's August already. And let's get this episode on the road. So my friend Derek Sanford has been a friend a long time. I met him, 6 or 7 years ago on a Compassion International trip to Peru with a bunch of other pastors. And we just hit it off, became friends. He's in Erie, Pennsylvania at Grace Church. Took over, kind of grew up through that church and was on staff, and then ended up stepping into the lead role after the mentor and guy that had been leading handed it to him. And so he understands leading things you didn't start. And he's got a new book that just came out called Untapped Church, and it's all about volunteer culture, and that is a key. And that I really think they have had some very strategic thinking when it comes to volunteers creating buy-in and ownership from their volunteers in their church. And so I couldn't be more thankful for Derek and his leadership. He's one of my favorite people. And I'm really glad I got to sit down and talk to him about this new book, but also what it was like for him stepping in to lead something he didn't start. So without further ado, here's my friend Derek Sanford. Welcome back to the Life-Giving Leader Podcast. My name is Tyler Reagin, and today I have a longtime friend, and I have a really funny story that I'm not sure I'm going to share on this podcast about a trip we went together with Compassion International to Peru, where I met Pastor Derek Sanford for the first time. I almost said Stanford, which is not true. It's Sanford.
No, it's not. Sanford.
Derek, good to have you on the Life-Giving Leader Podcast.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I have very few people that I can say I met them in South America. That's our story.
And who aren't South American. See, that's an even
That's true.
An additional layer to that.
Right.
Derek's pastor in Erie, Pennsylvania. Pretty amazing story at Grace Church. And we met on that Compassion trip. We had I think some Willow Creek Association pastors with us, and you guys got to see Compassion in action, and it was awesome getting to know you. And then I've been up to Grace now and seen your work firsthand. You guys do amazing stuff. What's fascinating? Well, let's do this. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are, because that's going to tie us into a little bit of what we want to talk about today.
Yeah, sure. I've been, I really grew up around here near Erie, Pennsylvania. And so I'm from here. It's weird pastoring a church in the town you're from.
Yeah.
Because, you see people walk in and sit in the seats every week that you're like, oh, wow, we have a story and you know too much.
And let's be honest, it's freaking cold up there. And the fact that you've stayed around there that long.
Listen, don't rag on Erie, because Erie is one of the, I was just at the beach all day yesterday with my family.
And it was 58 degrees. It was awesome.
Listen, there's two seasons in Erie, winter and the 4th of July. And that's what we like to say. So I've been at Grace Church for 26 years. And I was the student pastor here for a while, was the executive pastor here for a while, and now I've been in the lead role for the last 10 years. And so again, my wife and family, everybody's from around here, so we're kind of leading at our home and our home space, which is again, it's got wonderful parts to it, and it's got challenges as well.
Yeah. So as your student pastor, executive pastor under a lead pastor, was that the founding pastor at the time? Was that someone who had stepped in?
Actually, so our we're a very old church, 1895.
Wow.
So, but the guy before me had been here for a long time, Pastor Al Detter, a huge mentor and a dear friend to me. He'd been here for 32 years. So, we've had kind of back-to-back long-term people here at our church, which I think really benefits a church.
Sure.
But we were both caretakers of something that was much older than both of us.
Yeah. So talk us through a little bit, like you'd been there for a long time, and then all of a sudden you get handed the keys, right? And you're stewarding something that a mentor, someone who means a lot to you, had stewarded. You knew these people, you knew this church. What kind of fear, what kind of excitement, was stirring in you when you and Kim stepped into this?
Yeah, so I think from an excitement side, Al had done, he's one of my great heroes in life. So he had done a phenomenal job with the transition. It takes tremendous humility. That's what I will tell people till the day I die, of the humility of this man who was able to just transition something that he had invested so much in over to me, and he had included me so much along the way. I was preaching, almost half the time, by the end of our time together. He had invited me to really help co-create the vision of the church. And so when I stepped in, it was just a seamless transition. It was interesting. There was a church across town who was about the same size as us who did a transition the other way, where it's like you go with all the interim pastors and, all this kind of stuff. Their transition took about 18 months. Ours took about one Sunday, and so it was really amazing. But some of the trepidation was around just really having a different skill set than him, and it worked together really well for a lot of years. But then when all of a sudden the skill set of the main leader shifted, it really brought a lot of insecurity out in me. and just trying to figure out how do I fill that gap that I'm not good at, with people who are really good at it. And so that was probably the biggest fear factor. The other stuff came very naturally. I mean, like I said, he had included me, so I'd already been doing lots of the stuff that I was doing. But it was that, oh man, he really loves people, and I really love mission stuff, and how do I make sure I've got lots of good people around me, to kind of fill in that gap.
Did you have a season when you knew you were about to transition into that, where you started thinking about what you wanted to change? And was there any patience required, even when you knew that ahead of, you know what I mean? Like you step in and you're going, well, I got some ideas. Like how long did you wait before you started implementing some of those new things?
That's a great question. And I really do think it's the reason why I have such high respect for Al. So he basically told me 5 years before we made the transition.
Just for the record, I don't know what I'm doing in 5 weeks, Derek. Okay. So let's be honest about this.
Well, listen, it turned out to be 5 years. I'm not sure either of us knew it at the time.
Okay, fair enough.
but he basically said, you're the guy to follow me, and I'm going to go to the wall to make sure that, that our process matches that so that you can transition in. So yeah, there was a waiting game. There was definitely a patience thing. And here's what I would say to people who are in that position. I've told some people around here too, because of what I love and am passionate about the church, we're always thinking succession. We're always thinking replacing yourself. So that's one of the, like, our DNA pieces. But I think for the person who's waiting to come into the role, the key thing is this patience. And one of the vows that I made to Al and to myself during that time was, I said, I will never be the one to bring up the transition.
Yeah.
So I will wait for you when you're ready to talk about it with me. I'll be ready to talk, but I never want to be in that position where I'm pushing or pressing you to say, when is this happening? When are we going to do this? When are we going to make the shift? I just knew that would be a nightmare and would probably be unnecessary pressure on him. However, I did, obviously offer lots of thoughts and ideas about where I thought the church should go. The direction of things at the time.
But he'd given you permission to do that, hadn't he?
He had, but I will say that the tension between us increased as we got closer to the end.
Yeah.
Just because I think we were both feeling the insecurities of, our own position. And
he's about to go through an identity change after 32 years. And that's hard stuff, man. Like hard stuff. So what can you think of a time, like say in that first year, that you can remember going, ooh, like I pushed too fast, or I can you think of an illustration or a time either way, like where you went, that was a good decision, I learned from that, or that was not a good decision? Can you think of anything like that?
Yeah, we in the one of the very first changes was we went to a multi-site situation, and it was actually kind of the impetus for us making the transition.
Yeah.
He, and again, to his great credit, he knew that this was the right direction for our church to go, and he also knew that he wasn't the one to lead that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when he knew that it was time. And I would say, I grabbed the reins fast on that multi-site vision, and we ran fast initially. And it may have been a little bit too fast for the church at the time. There's probably some things I would have slowed down, but it was like that moment where it's like, I'm riding the stagecoach here, and I'm the one driving. So we're gonna get those horses moving, kind of thing.
Right.
So, but I do think, looking back, I mean, I think it was the right decision, because I think it gave our church another thing to focus on.
Yeah.
Other than the transition, or other than getting either too happy or too upset about the new regime. It was like we had another thing in front of us.
And I talk about this a lot with leading things to start, is just this dance of discernment, right? Like it's you kind of step with it and discern and try to go, can I push here? Can I pull here? I didn't go fast enough. And honestly, we're not going to get it perfect every time. I think the great leaders in those situations are the ones that recognize when they didn't get it perfect and make an adjustment, versus I've just got to keep plowing through because this is my agenda now and I'm the sheriff. Like even as you're talking about a stagecoach, like there's still some control we can have, even if it has momentum. And just knowing that you were trying to discern that in a way to honor the people and take them with you. At the same time, I think a lot of we're probably kind of going, okay, let's see if Derek's going to take us. So like, what what's his leadership chops, when it comes to this situation? Do you feel that a little bit?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And and I think that new initiative served us well, because it was
Yeah.
like a new big project. And it's almost like, we've heard of the honeymoon period
Right.
where, somebody comes into a new role, and that's a real thing.
Sure.
It's a little bit different probably in a transition like we had, but there was still that period where it's like, okay, let's do something different than we've been waiting to do.
Yeah.
So it's not like it snuck up on the church.
Right. But
But
it gave them attention. It
yeah.
wasn't like you were fixing or changing the things that Al had done for 32 years. It gave you guys to focus on something else, which, wow, that's such a gift in a sense for that transition, right?
That's a really great point. Yeah, because it wasn't like there was this big backlog of things that we
Sure.
needed to make healthy,
Yeah.
and we did have the freedom to kind of chase after a new
Yeah.
thing.
It's like that first Sunday. Hey guys, I really haven't liked how Al's been preaching the last 32 years. So here's what I'm going to do about it. So, man, that's cool. And I love hearing that story, because I have a lot of friends too, who are walking through, either they've been communicated a transition or they haven't, but it's necessary. And they feel that tension of, oh gosh, am I supposed to talk about this? Am I not? What do we do? Because you're dealing with two very strong realities. One is a loss of identity for whoever that person is. Two is just everybody's opinions, right? Like everybody has an opinion on who should be next, who shouldn't be next, how long should this person do it? I remember I worked for Lane Jones at North Point for a long time, and he's one of the guys that helped start that church. And I remember him saying, because one of our values as a church was replace yourself. And I remember Lane saying, I think he was in his 50s at the time, he goes, man, I love that. I'm all in on the value. But the truth is, I still need a job, right? So it's easy to sit and go, yeah, you guys should start transitioning your churches or handing things off to the next generation. But there is some reality of, great, I'm in on that, and I'd love to coach that. But who's actually paying someone to just coach the next generation guy or girl to step in like that? That's not really happening a whole lot. So I kind of really understand. And I just think it shows a lot of Al's character and the way he raised you, Derek, and the way that you honored him through that process. So one of the things you've learned, and actually you're about to release a book on this. So I love that you've spent some time thinking about this, but you've learned, when you step into something you didn't start, there's all these resources, all the things that you have at your disposal, right? In a sense of like, how do I take this team, these players, this thing, and try to make what we feel like God's calling us to do out of that? And for you, there was probably one key thing that showed up above everything else that you feel like you've learned in this process that other people need to realize. What would that be?
So I was standing at a whiteboard. We were having one of our staff retreats, and this was literally right around that transition time. We'd invited a bunch of young leaders into this planning session for the future of our church. I remember standing, we did a typical SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. We filled the whole whiteboard. And I remember feeling like something's missing, something's off. And we all felt it in the room. We had this whiteboard moment. And one of the young leaders piped up and said, where would you put our people on that list? And, because we had stuff on there. What are our strengths? Oh, our worship ministry is doing pretty well. The music's great. Our kids ministry is on the rebound, all the stuff that you'd normally put up there. And
were they on a rebound from like a bad breakup or something? Like, what are we talking about?
No, it's all good. It's all good. So they so where do our people fall on this list? And it was this aha moment that really set off a domino effect here through the last 10 or 12 years in our church of going, our people are our greatest strength. That they're the greatest strength of our church, because we have such a broad variety of people, fantastic people. And I believe that this is true for every church. I believe that every church has fantastic people that are a part of it. And that was when this idea of Untapped, is the name of my book is called Untapped Church. And untapped just means available but not used. And so we recognize that, man, we have people in our congregation who have the capacity to serve God with incredible tenacity, with incredible gifts, who have been untapped. We haven't given them kind of the room to develop as leaders. And so, I walked away going, man, I think the greatest untapped resource in the church today is high capacity volunteer leaders who are willing to serve the church without pay. And, lots of organizations have volunteers, but what
Yeah.
we've really tried to lean into this different level of volunteerism where, we've brought people onto our staff who are not paid. And so right now, if you come to one of our staff meetings, it's 1/3 paid people, 2/3 unpaid people that are part of our staff. And so that was the beginning of this kind of journey for us, where we said, oh man, there's potential here that we didn't even think about, because our people are our greatest resource.
Yeah. So, but I mean, there's a million orgs out there that deal with volunteers, right? So as you've written this, and people have written about this a lot, what's one or two of the learnings or unique things that you have kind of tapped into? Do you see what I did there with your Untapped
Church?
I like it. Yeah. But what's something that you feel like you've kind of seen that's illuminated some unique ideas for how to lead and how to serve these volunteers?
So I think that really the whole second half of my book reads more like a workshop. There's lots of super practical ideas. And so I think some of those initial decisions that we made, probably the first main decision that we made was to move our staff meetings from the daytime to the evenings. So, our paid staff was used to having Tuesday afternoon at 1:00 staff meetings, and that was comfortable for everyone. And when we started adding these volunteers to our team, we said, listen, to do staff meeting, we're going to have to do 5 to 7. We're going to have to offer dinner as part of it, because these folks are coming from different jobs. And so, that was a key change and a key learning. And all of these things, I think, are helping to make those volunteers feel valued. And so, we began to treat them like staff. So we gave them business cards. We gave them a church email address. We gave them name tags on Sunday morning that said, I'm a staff person. And we've gone so far as to say, they have to fill out vacation request forms, so here we are having people who are not paid, who have to tell us that when they're going on vacation, because their role is so big that we need to know.
Now, let me be real clear, Derek. I don't want to do that if I work for somebody. Okay. So I just want to, no, I'm just kidding. I love that, because what you're saying is, hey, you're a part of this team. You're an integral part of this team. And we need to know when you're in, we need to know when you're out. This is not a lighthearted thing on either side of the equation.
Right. Yep. So those were key. And I mean, and I think there is a unique transfer of authority that needs to take place. And, we talked earlier about the transition from Al to me in the lead role. And, we kind of figured out we need to replicate that as we're thinking about moving volunteers into different positions, that there's a transfer of authority that needs to happen, both to the team that they're going to lead and to the broader congregation at some level, where you step in. They used to, in the medieval days, have the knighting ceremony, where, everybody's together and there's this sword on the shoulder moment. And it doesn't have to be that formal. I don't want to get weird about it, but there's this moment where somebody that people look up to in the church world are in a room, and that person comes in and says, listen, here's your leader, and you need to treat this person with the same respect you'd treat me. What they say is as if I was saying it. And that sort of a moment, I think there are certain positions that have required that. And we've just seen volunteers rise to every level of leadership in our church. I mean, we had a volunteer pastor who was overseeing our paid pastors. So he was the pastor of our pastors. He's determining their salary. Wow. He's figuring out what kind of vacations they can take. And the dude's a volunteer.
Yeah.
But that was his gifting. And that was kind of where his capacity was raised to. And so, we just want to give people a chance to lead whatever strata they find themselves in.
I love that. It's weird that you say that, because when I was there, United me, and I thought that was just part of what you guys do.
You're on your knees, everything right in the altar.
So why don't churches do this more often? Like, what's keeping leaders from going, from not tapping into this thing? We've got this resource here. Why are they not doing it?
Yeah, I think on a systemic level, the church has bought into this 2-track system, that there's clergy and there's laity. And there's this idea, I think, in a lot of churches that says, listen, we pay pastors to do the ministry. And I think this idea will always end in frustration, because it's not the New Testament design.
Yeah.
And so there's become this unhealthy reliance on paid staff, And so they're like, okay, well, studying the Bible, well, that's the pastor's job. You study it and then tell me what I should think about it. And visiting the sick, well, that's the pastor's job. And counseling the broken, serving the poor, preaching, teaching, evangelism, whatever, that's your job. And we'll put some money in the plate and we'll send an email when we don't like what's going on. So there's this 2-track system that's developed that says, it's the pastor's job to do certain things, and it's the laity's job to do other things. And I think the priesthood of believers theology in the New Testament shatters that whole concept, that Jesus didn't reserve the priesthood for this chosen class. He gave it away to everybody. He said, now everybody's a priest. And so God is on the loose, through every individual person. And so I think systemically, churches have bought into that 2-track system and don't realize that everybody's a priest. But I think pastors, I think a lot of pastors that I've talked to just haven't even considered this idea.
Yeah.
That this is possible, that I could have people on my staff. And so a lot of pastors sit around and they go, well, geez, our church isn't going to move forward until I can hire that next youth pastor.
Right.
And when we get enough money to be able to hire the youth pastor, that's when we'll be able to move forward. And I'm just saying, man, there's a lot of great things that you can do through high capacity folks that you're not even thinking of.
So two last kind of thoughts. One is, where would somebody start if they feel like they're trying to figure it out when they look at the landscape of their space? And honestly, the second thought just comes in the fact that we're coming out of a pandemic. Where I was talking to a guy last week, their church has to cut $1 million in salaries and space. And sometimes I think that's a really good thing, right? You got to get lean again and reset again. How can you put these two together and use this as a catalyst moment, as a momentum building opportunity to start tapping into some of these amazing leaders?
Yeah, I would just say to pastors, in terms of a starting place, that I think a real key is to really come back to, what am I called to do? And in the book, I talk about the cornerstone calling. What's your cornerstone calling? What are the things that God wants me to do? And I think there was this New Testament Acts 6 moment when the apostles had this thing, the certain widows weren't being fed and the people were complaining. And what are they to do? Do we wring our hands and stay up late in the night and do all this? And they came out with this crazy statement. They said, it is not good for us to wait on tables. They didn't say, it sounds very unspiritual to our ears. They're basically saying it's not good for us to serve the poor. They didn't say it's not convenient. They didn't say it's not efficient. They said it's not good, because they said our calling is prayer and the preaching of the word. And basically they said, so everything else needs to be done by people that we bring. And I would call them high capacity volunteers. These were not paid staff, but they brought in other leaders to handle that ministry. And so I think that's a model for us to have pastors go, what are the things I'm called to? And then I'm going to give everything else away. And in terms of the pandemic, Tyler, I just think everybody's in this moment, organizationally and personally, where we're reevaluating, we're reorienting our lives. I've told our church, I'm like, we have this moment right now where we can put the big rocks in place again. Because the whole thing has been upended, and we can almost start over and go, here are the most important things in my life. And so I think for church leaders, for organization leaders, to recognize that our people are in that moment and going, this might be the prime time to ask somebody to go, would you consider doing this big thing for our church and making it a key part of your next chapter in life? I think it's a great moment. And like you said, for churches as well, for organizations, I think we get to rethink, what are the big things? And if there are big ministries that your church should be doing that you haven't been chasing, maybe the key isn't waiting for the next staff hire. Maybe the key is going, who in our church could do this right now? And then make the big ask and get them on board.
Yeah. So Derek, this book's coming out. It's called Untapped Church. And for people that want to follow you or keep up with any resources or stuff coming out, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, they can go over to dereksanford.com. It's DEREK Sanford.com. So not those crazy spellings of Derek, but the actual real spelling.
What's funny is I would have spelled Sanford instead of Derek. Like if I had to pick of the two.
Oh, really? Yeah, no. Well,
probably what I'd pick. But anyway, okay. So go to Derek, DEREK, Sanford, SANFORD.
Thank you.
And it'll be worth your time. I'm really proud of you, Derek. I think one of the characteristics in the scripture that I've always believed in, but I think the church is lacking, is steadfastness sometimes. And to see your steadfastness at a church for 27 years just shows a lot about your character and your commitment to God's calling in your life. And even the days that you probably question it or wonder, and yet you stay faithful, has just been a testimony and a ministry to me and to many of us who follow you and are friends with you. I think you have a lot. You just have so much to offer people when it comes to just showing what it means to be a man of faithfulness and a man of being steadfast. And you've done that with your family, you've done that with your church, and you've done that with your friends. So thanks for writing this book. Thanks for being a part of the Life Giving Leader podcast.
I appreciate it, Tyler. You're the best, man. God bless you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Derek. And again, let me repeat what we just talked about. If you want to keep up with the book and all the things going on with Untapped Church, you can go to Derek Sanford, SANFORD.com, or follow him on Instagram at Derek Sanford, same first and last name. So I'm so thankful for him and for his heartbeat for leaders and the way he's created and grown a pretty incredible church with unbelievable volunteers who are stepping into staff roles and leadership roles. And so I'm really grateful for him. And I think it makes me think about all the people I know that are full-time businessmen or women who love serving at their church, even have a call to ministry, but to do it bivocationally or to do it through creating really good businesses to serve some ministries, but also being able to step into leadership positions when asked upon. And so I just think this is a resource the church needs to pick up. And so, again, you can pick it up where books are sold, and also go to dereksanford.com. And so, all right, this is going to be the week of podcast, people. So stand by. I'll see you probably tomorrow. That's what I'm thinking about. And looking forward to another day together at the Life Giving Leader podcast. We'll see you soon.